This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Welcome to StoreKit 2 with SwiftUI. In this video, we're going to be learning about the brand new released StoreKit 2 from WWDC 2021, putting this app together that you see here with SwiftUI. So we're going to go ahead and tap on this buy button to purchase this snazzy Apple Watch. I'll go ahead and confirm it, and boom, we reactively update the UI, handle transaction state, and the whole 9 yards. If that sounds good, drop a like down below, hit subscribe, and let's get into Xcode. Alright, let's open up Xcode and get into it. So we are here in Xcode 13 Beta 1. We're going to go ahead and create a new project. We'll stick with iOS and select the app template, and let's go ahead and call our project Apple Store. Make sure your language is set to Swift, and we're going to be working with SwiftUI. StoreKit 2 is available with UIKit as well, but we'll use SwiftUI for today's video. We're going to go ahead and create our project, toss it wherever you'd like. And first things first, I'm going to go ahead and jump into our assets folder here, and I've got a Apple Watch image that I just grabbed from Google. We're going to go ahead and drag that in here, and we'll go ahead and expand our Xcode window and jump back to our content view. Now, before we get into the StoreKit aspect of the video, let's go ahead and design a fairly simple user interface to allow the user to make a purchase. So we're going to go ahead and change the preview device to a 12 Pro Max. I'll go ahead and hit the resume button on the right over here. Hopefully Xcode decides to cooperate today, and then we'll jump into it. So what we're going to want to do is add a nice title at the top, maybe the image, and then we're going to show a buy button as well. So let's go ahead and do that. I am going to create a VStack here. At the very top, we're going to create a image with the system name of Apple logo, which will give you basically what the name sounds like. It's going to be resizable. We'll go ahead and give it a width and a height. Maybe we'll go with 100 by 100. After that, we're going to go ahead and give our store a title here, so our users and our customers especially know where they are at. So of course it's going to be the Apple Store here, and maybe we want to bold this font and also make it a smidge bigger since it's a little tiny right now. So we're going to go with a system font size of maybe 32. And let's see, things are looking pretty good. We're in the Apple Store here. Let's go ahead and make this a teensy tiny bit smaller since it's a little too big. Next up, what we are going to want is our product image. This is the image we brought in. I believe I called it just a watch. So let's go ahead and bring that in, and it is enormous and does not look quite right. So let's go ahead and set a aspect ratio on here as well. We're going to say aspect ratio is going to fit. Now this can take in an actual aspect ratio and a content mode. So let's do nil there, and then here we're going to go ahead and say fit so our watch doesn't look wonky. And then finally we're going to want a button to be able to make our in-app purchase. So we're going to go ahead and use the button with a action and a label here. What is a label going to be? Now for now, all we're going to show here is a buy button, and it's going to have some text that says buy now. And we're going to go ahead and make this guy bold as well, give it a foreground color of white. Bear with me, we're almost at StoreKit. And let's go ahead and give it a frame with a width of 220, a height of 50, and a nice background color of color.green, and we're going to give it a corner radius as well for good measure. So here is our pretty snazzy store, and we want to allow our user to purchase this Apple Watch here. So there are two things that we need to do, and the first thing is, well, prior to the first thing, we need to actually import StoreKit. This will be StoreKit 2 under the hood since we're working with iOS 15 and Xcode 13 here. So speaking of iOS 15, we want to jump to our main project navigator, and we want to change this minimum deployment target for iOS 15, for iOS to iOS 15, I should say. And now we'll be able to use all the new APIs that are available this year. So now what are the actual two steps in the process here? So first we want to fetch products. So let's write that out. We want to fetch products. We want to purchase a product if it is not purchased. And then finally we want to update our UI, aka fetch product state. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to create a separate object to handle some of this logic, and then we'll just make the calls from our content view down here just to keep things nice and organized. Now I'm going to go ahead and call this a view model. It's going to be a class that's going to extend observable object, and let's go ahead and put appropriate functions in here to do what we want our class here to do. So the first thing is going to be fetch products, and actually maybe we'll implement this as we go along since it is fairly straightforward. Now what is this function going to do? Well, it's going to asynchronously go and fetch products. So I'm going to say in this async block we are going to want to fetch our products from the App Store. So we're going to say try and await, and we're going to say product, and we're going to want to request products with the given identifiers. Now these identifiers are basically what we create, so I'm just going to create com.apple.watch, and we're going to have some dummy data that Xcode can handle for us, and we're going to go ahead and bring it on in here. Now we need to put this whole thing inside of a do catch block because it can throw an error. If it does throw an error, we're simply going to print it out. So cool, so now that we've got this fetch here for products, we're good to fetch products. It's just yelling at me that we haven't actually used this instance here. So all I'm gonna do right now is simply print the products that we fetch. Now where are we actually going to use this view model? We are going to have an instance on our view, on our content view, which is going to be a state object. And it's going to be called view model, and it's going to be an instance of our view model class. When our view first gets created, I'm going to go ahead and say view model, go ahead and fetch products, just like that. And since our code is getting a little long here, what I'm going to go ahead and do here is actually abstract some of this stuff into its own Swift file. So we'll go ahead and right click here. Let me go ahead and create a new file. And we can stick with an empty Swift file, and I'm just going to go ahead and call this store.swift, and we'll go ahead and import, first of all, StoreKit, and I'm going to paste everything in here, and we'll also implement, or import I should say, SwiftUI just for the sake of it. So this is how we are going to be fetching a product, pretty simple. Now let's take a look at our list. The next thing that we want to be able to do is actually purchase a given product. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is say func, and this is going to be purchase. And the way that we can purchase a product is pretty simple. So we can actually call it a purchase function off of a product. So we're going to have the product be passed in here, which is going to be of type product, and we can say product.purchase. Now this function can throw an error and is asynchronous as well. So what we need to do is say do catch, and this guy is going to return to us a results. So we're going to go ahead and say try to await and purchase that product, and if an error actually occurs, we are going to print it on out. So we've done quite a few things here, so before we continue on further, let's start hooking this up to our UI, and let's see if something actually happens. So right now we've got this view model here, and it's yelling at me because, let's see why it's yelling at me. Maybe something's off in our other file, so let me jump in here, store.swift, and let's see what's going on. So we've got a result here. Let's see. This whole thing is asynchronous, so we need to wrap it in an async call, just like that. And that error should hopefully go away, and we have our warning here for not using it. Alright, so back in our content view, when we go ahead and tap on this, I'm going to go ahead and say view model dot purchase. Now we need to pass in the product to purchase. So since we're only going to have a single product at the moment, what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to grab that product from the actual view model. Now, what do I mean by that? So back here in the store file, when we go ahead and get these products, I'm going to go ahead and assign it to be a global instance here. So we're going to say self.products is going to be products. Now we're going to create a products variable on here. Going to go ahead and say products is going to be an array of product objects, product, just like that. And by default, it's going to be empty, looking good. And basically, actually, instead of even passing in a product in here, we can be a little smarter about this, and we can go ahead and say guard let product is going to be products.first. We only have a single product in our case here, so we can get away with this. We'll say product dot first. Otherwise, we'll simply return here. And this is going to try to purchase on that product. So let's go back to our contents view. And in here, we can simply say in the button tab, we're going to say view model dot purchase, and that should kick off our actual purchase. Now, one more thing we need to do before we give this a run. You guys might remember we had said com.apple.watch here for our product ID. Now, since we're in Xcode, we need to create some debug files so we can go ahead and actually play with this locally since we haven't set up, backend products. So we're going to create a new file and we're going to search for a StoreKit configuration file. This allows you to create and test your StoreKit purchases locally in Xcode. Once this is created, we'll hit the plus at the bottom left down here, and I'm going to create a non-consumable item. I'm going to give it a name to be a Apple Watch. We'll toss our product ID here. We'll go ahead and drop in a price here. We'll say $400. And let's also go ahead and give this a display name of Apple Watch, and we'll say purchase Apple Watch Series 6 for the description. And the other thing you need to do, which a lot of people forget, is once you've got this configuration file created, you go to edit your scheme, which is a thing that runs. You go to the run tab on the left, and then you go to options, and make sure you provide your StoreKit configuration file in this dropdown right here. Once you've done that, go ahead and hit close, and we can run this in our simulator. So let's go ahead and hit the run button to hopefully get our simulator popping up. There it is. And let me actually take this so we can maybe put it on one side of our screen here to the right hand side, just like that. And I'll have Xcode be on the left hand side here. Let's go ahead and make this a tad bit smaller so we can have our codes side by side. And let's wait for our simulator to load up. So we can actually also go ahead and close up the preview here since we've got most of our UI working out already. All right, there is our app here. Let's go ahead and hit pause and hit run one more time. Sometimes the simulator is just a little bit slow. Might also be because it is a beta. Bear with it. Let's go ahead and manually launch it. All right, this is an older Apple Store app, so let me actually go ahead and delete this from my simulator here. And let's see, looks like it's taking its time. Let's go ahead and hit pause here. Let me go ahead and delete this app. And I'm going to go ahead and run it one more time. I should install it. Boom, there it is. All right. Looks like it just launched it 3 times. Sometimes the simulator, especially these betas, does some really, really strange things. It is loading here, and we should see, hopefully, our Apple logo, the title, and the Apple Watch. So while this loads up, essentially what we're doing is as soon as the view appears, we fetch the products. And once we've fetched it and tap on this button down here, we should see the purchase sheet. So I am tapping on this here, and it looks like I'm not actually seeing the purchase sheet. So let's see what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our console here. So it's saying accessing state objects object. All right, SwiftUI is complaining without being installed on a view. So let's see what is going on. So we're saying view model fetch objects in the initializer. So this is complaining about us fetching for the state object before we have actually created the view. So the way we can resolve this is by saying fetch the object, fetch the actual products once this view actually appears. So let's go ahead and give it a run one more time after we move that code there. And we shouldn't have that error anymore. And in fact, when I tap on this button now, we should see our share sheet, rather our purchase sheet, keep saying share sheet here, just like that. So now before we go ahead and actually confirm this purchase, let's go back into our store.swift file and take a look at how we're going to handle the purchase. So we have this green buy now button here, but it would be nice if we actually showed this button after we fetched the products, and it would also be nice to show the price for the product, because right now the user doesn't really know how much the thing is that they're buying. So let's go ahead and handle that. So what I'm going to do is in this store.swift file, we are going to set this products collection as a publishable property, just like that. and we are going to assign to it on the main queue. In other words, once we actually fetch the products, we're going to tell this products that we have got them, and we are actually going to assign to them. And actually, let's see if I can get away with just assigning to them like this. And what we're going to actually want to do once we have assigned to them like that is update our UI to show the buy button thereafter. So what I'll go ahead and do here is we are going to say if let product is going to be our viewModel.products.first. If we actually have a product, we're going to show a text label, which is going to be the product.displayName. And then our buy now button here is going to show the price in parentheses. So we're going to go ahead and say product.display price, I believe is what I'm looking for. Just like that. Let's make sure that is spelled correctly. And let's go ahead and give it a run. And what you'll notice is the button is not there to buy now immediately. It might look really fast on your simulator because it's almost instant, but it does take some time to populate. We also might want to show the description here. There is a description for the product. And I'm going to change the color of the product, the button here, to be maybe a blue color. And once the user has purchased it, we're going to update what this looks like. So cool. So now that we've got this and the user can tap on it and go to that purchase function that we wrote, let's come into here and handle what this result is going to give us after we purchased a product. All right, so after we've purchased a product, if you start typing result here, you'll quickly see in the autocomplete that the type of this is a product.purchaseResult. So what we need to actually do on this is switch on the results, and I'll just hit Command B, and you'll see that I'll get the error here. We can hit fix, and here are all the states that we care about. In the success case, we get something called a verification as a associated value, and we'll deal with that in a moment. In all these other cases, I'm just going to break, and we're not going to handle it in this video, but these are the other cases that you would get. Now that we have this verification, what we want to actually do on it is further switch on this. And this basically tells us if the transaction is verified by the App Store or not. So in this case, we get a transaction. There is also a unverified state, in which case we also get a transaction, just like that. And that's basically how we can determine if the transaction is valid. And once we have actually gotten this transaction here, we can mark it for the user as actually purchased. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is maybe we'll just actually print out the transaction dot, let's see, the product ID that was actually verified. And in this case, we're not going to actually use that, so we'll just say an underscore so the warning goes away. So let's go ahead and purchase a product, and let's see what that actually looks like down in our console. All right, so there's our blue buy button. We're going to go ahead and tap it. Boom, boom. We confirm the purchase because we are loaded and want to get an Apple Watch. Awesome. And here is the product ID that I just purchased. Now, one thing you'll notice is why the heck does our button still say buy? Because we just bought it. So how do we handle the state of knowing what the user has purchased? So for a non-consumable product, we don't want the user to be able to purchase it again. So if I go ahead and just hit Command R to build and launch our app again, what we now need to take care of is once the user once the app fetches the products, we want to update this button accordingly such that it should reflect if the user already owns that product. So how do we actually do that? So we could create another function here, or what we could do is we can do it in this fetch products function itself. We're going to decide to do another function here since it is simpler. So I'm going to say func is purchased. And basically, since we only have one product, I can get away with doing guard-let product is going to be products.first. And if we actually have a product here, what you want to go ahead and do is get the state of a product by simply saying product, and you can get the current entitlements. Now, what this is also going to want us to do is an await call. If you don't add it, you're going to get an error there. So here we're going to say try, and you want to go ahead and await for this to come back. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is asynchronous, And we also want to put it in a do catch block so we don't actually run into any errors that are thrown. And essentially, the state is identical to this result guide down here that returns a verification result. So I'm going to copy that. And we actually, I guess, don't need a catch here because it's not going to return or throw an error. So let me get rid of that. It's yelling at me. And let's get rid of that try. And here we can simply switch over the state. Now, if it is verified, that means we have actually figured out that the user owns this product already. If it isn't verified, then we know that the user does not have a verified transaction for it. We're going to go ahead and hit fix here. And there is also a none case. And the reason there is a none case is because this actually returns optional to us. So we're going to go ahead and say guard let state, and we're going to unwrap it. And that's basically it. That's how we figure out what products are purchased. Now, in our case, I'm going to create another published property here, and this is going to be purchased IDs, and it's going to hold the strings for the products that have been purchased. So if this product has been purchased here, what we are going to do is simply say self.purchased IDs, go ahead and append the transaction.product ID to this guy, and this product ID is of type string. And because it is a publishable property, we are going to go ahead and do this on the main queue, and we should almost be done with our app and be good to go. So where are we actually going to call this function from? We can call it from a variety of places. The place that I'm going to choose to do it from is once we have successfully fetched products. So we can simply go ahead and toss this in here. So I can go ahead and say await for is purchased, and we can go ahead and make this function async. We can drop this async. All right, let me go ahead and align this. And let me go ahead and hit Command B, make sure we don't have any funky syntax issues going on. And we should be good to go. So basically, once we have fetched the products, right after, we're also going to check is purchased. And for that to reflect in our UI, what I'm going to go ahead and do is in our content view, once we have the product, we show the button. But what I want to actually do in here is we only want to purchase if the product's ID, the purchase IDs are empty. So if viewModel.purchase IDs is empty, then when we tap on the button, we're going to try to purchase. And similarly, if our actual purchase IDs is empty, we're going to go ahead and show that buy button. Otherwise, we're going to actually show a button that says, you know, a check mark, and maybe that you've purchased the product already. So we're going to say if this is empty, go ahead and show this buy now button. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and show a label that says purchased. Similarly, if our purchase IDs are empty, we're going to go ahead and say show the blue color. Otherwise, we're going to show a green color. So if I go ahead and give this a run now, we should see a green button at the bottom. And let's see why we're not seeing that. So we are definitely seeing a blue button here. Let's see what's going on that is making our green button not show. All right, so if it is empty, we're going to show buy. And if it's not empty, we'll show purchased. So I'm going to go ahead and debug this live and in action. So here we can go ahead and simply print out. I'm going to print out checking state. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and say our state is verified. And in this state, we're going to go ahead and say unverified. Go ahead and give it a run. And let's see what print statements we get. And we'll debug this together. All right, so it looks like we never actually make it down here. So let's see what's going on there. I see. So basically, we are only actually calling this function. We're calling this function before we've actually assigned products to our published collection. So essentially, it's probably not passing this. So if I actually toss a print in here, what we're going to be seeing is we're going to say no products. We're probably calling this function before that collection is assigned, so we're going to hit that return, so we get no products. So the more intelligent thing that we can do here is simply pass in a product just like that. So what I can actually do, because I've got this collection here, I can say if let product equals a products.first, we're going to go ahead and call this function, and we're going to pass in this product appropriately like so. That way we can drop our unwrap here like that, and we should be good to go. So let me go ahead and give it a run once more, and hopefully everything reflects appropriately. So boom, we see our purchased item here. When I tap it, nothing is happening because, as expected, we have already purchased this product and we don't want to purchase it again. All right, so looks pretty good. Now, one final cleanup piece that I'm going to actually do, because we want to add the product ID to this collection once something is purchased, we're going to actually go ahead and do that here. This is in the purchase function, and let's go ahead and change our product ID so you guys can actually see this example end to end. So I'm going to say this is a watch, and I'm going to tack on the word _new. And let's jump into our configuration file here and just change this guy here to be _new. That way it's going to be a new product that we have not purchased yet. So we'll see our blue button. Gonna go ahead and purchase it successfully just like that. And boom, in line, our UI has reactively updated and we are in the purchase state now. And even more importantly, when we go ahead and run our app again, the UI will reflect the fact that we already own this product. And that is StoreKit 2 in a nutshell. So I know I jumped around a little bit in here, but hopefully, just to do a quick recap, you guys figured out what I was doing. So we've got a view model here, which is observable, therefore some properties on it. When it changes, we update our UI. UI is pretty straightforward and simple. We've got a title for the logo of the Apple Store and the Apple. Just realized that the actual Apple Store logo is smushed a little bit. So the way we can actually go ahead and fix that is by making this guy resizable as well. Make sure our Apple logo is fitting nicely. Let's go ahead and give that a run. Make sure it's looking all right. And then right below that, we've got our Apple Watch image. We've got our buy button with some information that we fetch from the StoreKit APIs. We've got our store.swift file, which is responsible for fetching our APIs, or fetching our products, I should say. Also responsible for checking if a product is purchased already. Also responsible for making a purchase and verifying that the transaction is valid. Finally, we've got this configuration file here that we created to locally test this end-to-end in Xcode 13 here. And it's just dummy data, which matches production data that you would normally set up in App Store Connect. So that's all I've got for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. Lots of more in-app purchase videos to come. Subscribe to the channel if you're into iOS, Swift, SwiftUI. Want to stick around to see a whole lot more. And don't hesitate to leave any comments with questions, comments, concerns, errors, bugs you might be having. Happy to help where I can, and I super love seeing the things that you guys actually build and, answering your questions. So thanks again for watching. I'll catch you all on the next one.